Hello, my esteemed viewers, followers, and subscribers. Welcome yet again to my YouTube channel. And today, my presentation has got nothing to do with master your language. Actually, today I prepared you a very important component of KCPE registration with the eagle's eye fully focused on selection of secondary schools. Selection of secondary schools is one of the fundamental exercises that bring the parents, the teachers, and the candidates together to brainstorm with a view of selecting good secondary schools that the candidates are gonna join after they're done with their primary life. Well, have you ever heard of parents crying foul that their children were selected to join schools that they never chose? They don't even know where they are. Have you heard of parents blaming the system that was used to place their children in schools as biased? Have you heard schools complaining of the same? Well, what causes this? And can it be averted? Well, that's the reason why I have prepared this presentation to you, so that we try to put insight into the processes of selection of secondary schools. From the initial stage of KCPE registration, a candidate is expected to select 11 schools. These 11 schools, 4 of them are national schools, 3 are extra county schools, and 2 are county schools, and the remaining 2 are sub-county schools. With that in mind, let me take you through the process of selecting national schools, because of course this is where everything starts. This is where we have many schools that all Kenyans would wish to go and learn. Well, national schools are grouped into 4. These 4 groups are called clusters. We have cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3, and cluster 4. The first step, go to each and every cluster and pick only one school. Maybe you may have some favorite schools falling in the same cluster. Like, for example, cluster 3 has got those brand schools, the giant schools in Kenya, where every candidate would wish to go and learn, where every parent would wish to take their child to go and learn, because that's where you'll find the giants like Alliance High School, Alliance Girls High School, the likes of Mangu, the likes of Lenana, the likes of the Kenya High, the likes of Maseno High School, the likes of Kanga High School. Those are giant schools. Well, unfortunately, you are limited of choices. You can only pick one of them. After picking a school from the clusters each, second step, prioritize them. Prioritization is very important, because you are going to ask yourself, which of these schools should I give option number 1? Your option number 1 of national school is going to be very important, because should you miss out on your option number 1 of the national schools, then there are chances that you can be placed in any of the remaining 3 in no particular order. There is no automatic placement in your second option, because your second option is also having many candidates, in fact thousands of candidates that selected it as their option number 1 school. And so they'll be given the first priority. Even the third option, you can't land there automatically, because they are those who selected your third option as their option number 1. That's why, should you miss out on your option number 1 school, chances are you will land in any of the 3 remaining national schools in no particular order, should you meet the threshold for admission to those schools. Now, that is the procedure of selecting national schools. Remember, national schools must have a national face. And besides that, when placing candidates in these schools in Form 1, there's a consideration of the national performance of candidates in that particular examination. There is also regional performance. there's also an an affirmative action, and also there's that aspect of balancing. So there's some other fundamental nitty-gritties that also play a key role when it comes to placement of students in national schools. I also want to mention that we have got a category of national schools. For example, we have this category of the Forces School. This is where we have the Moi Forces Nairobi, the Moi Forces Lanet. Now, these schools, including Utumishi Academy, these schools are admitting a greater percentage from those who are working in the forces, who are interested in joining these schools. So should you want to join these schools, you ensure that after selecting these schools, proceed to those schools and make an application. Similarly to Stare Girls Center and Stare Boys Center, these schools, should you select them as your option number one school, ensure that you follow up to those schools so that you have a form to be filled in. There's a pre-entry form that you have to fill in before you are formally elected to join this particular school. So that's the special category of these schools. Well, there are actually 103 national schools. Should you fail to join these national schools, where would you land? You would actually land in extra county schools. Extra county schools are quite a number of them. There are about 746. These are schools that are classified as high performing schools in the country. And these schools, how do you go about selection of extra county schools? Number one step, these schools are also grouped into three clusters, cluster 1, 2, and 3. Similarly to how you did it in the national schools, go to each and every cluster, pick only one school. Then after doing your picking, prioritize them. Find out which extra county school would you want to give priority number one. How about priority number two? Your priority number one should also be very, very important, because it is a school that if you miss out on national selections, then you should be able to land in that particular school. Something you need to know about extra county schools. These schools, they admit up to 60% of their candidates from within the county of the host county, the candidates who are from within that particular county. Then 40% are set aside for those students coming from other counties. That's why we call them extra county schools. And something that you also need to know about selection of extra county schools. When doing the selection of extra county schools, remember, you can only choose a maximum of 2 extra county schools from your home or your host county. When I talk about host county, I'm referring to the county from which your primary school or examination center is located, not home county. For example, you can be coming from Muranga and then you are landing in Kajiado. Then Kajiado becomes your host county. So you cannot choose more than 2 schools from Kajiado. But then you should also know that you can be able to choose all the three schools from other counties, provided it is not your host county. That is one of the fundamental principles that you need to understand when selecting these extra county schools. Then the rest are very simple. County schools, you choose 2. One, the first county school must be a school which is within your host sub-county. Your host sub-county, like I said, is where your primary school is. Then when you are selecting the sub-county schools, which is the last category, all these schools must be within your sub-county. Now, that is the procedure of selection of secondary schools. And one advice I want to give out before I end this, when we are doing the selections, please get to know the performance of your child, the academic ability of your child before you select a school. Because some of these schools, they have got their cutoff. Also try to get to know a bit of the cutoff of these schools. And then parents should be very flexible when it comes to selection of schools. Do not have a fixed mind with your child that it is Alliance, it is Pangani, it is Mangu, it is Lenana, and no any other school. Because that way, the child can really get affected when the child is placed in any other school. And secondly, do not take your child to a school because it is the last option that you have. Take your child to school telling this child that this is where you're going to learn for the rest of secondary life in school. Because if you take your child as if that is the last option, and you tell the child that let us just go to this school, maybe when opportunity opens in that particular school, then we'll transfer you. That child is not going to focus much in learning. That is what I would precisely tell you as parents. Finally, thank you very much for listening to me. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and share, and let's continue with the conversation going. If you have a child who's about to join Form 1, if you have a child who will be joining secondary school at some point, this video is going to be very, very important for you. Thank you and have a lovely time. That's the end of my presentation.